I need to mow my yard so bad. Like I have so many leaves in there and I need to just mulch them, and it's going to be weeks before I can get the mower out. Last year though, that's what I thought that going into fall, be like, oh, I got so much time. And then it snowed over Thanksgiving and then it never let up. It just dumped on us the rest of the year. I didn't empty my mower. I didn't get the leaves out because I was gone that week before. The week that I was back, I should have mowed that one. I did. And then I was like, oh, I'll mow again next week and get the rest of the leaves. And then it snowed and it never let up. And now it's just wet. So you'll never win. But
yeah, there's no fall and spring. It's just summer and winter now.
Welcome to the Slightly Serious Sign Podcast, brought to you by Wensco Sign Supply, the #1 podcast in the sign and graphics industry for news, events, new products, and customer success stories. If you want to know what's going on or you want to grow your sign shop, you're in the right place. Here is one, some, or all of your hosts, Mike, Tyler, and Domingo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 109 of the Slightly Serious Sign Podcast. No other of my co-hosts have decided to join me. One is on vacation, one's flying back from China, so you just get me. So I did want to say that my name's Tyler. I'm the director of marketing here at Wensco. This podcast is sponsored by Wensco. I say that to you because I was just going through to do, I was trying to give AI version, like here's who I am, here's what our podcast looks like, right? And because of our old intro that said here's Mikey, all of the AIs assume my name is Mike because the podcast starts with here's Mikey and then I do the intro. So apparently I have to tell them that my name's Tyler so that it will eventually fix itself. So anyways, that's my intro for you. So anyways, I have a guest with me here. If you want to introduce yourself, who you are, why we had you on, what you've been doing, kind of where you started here.
Okay. My name is Shawn Borga and I'm with YourBizCoach, and basically been in the sign industry for 22 years. Started in self-employment when I was 18. My mom called me up one day and said, hey, you're in school, spring, fall, and here's a striping machine that's for sale in the newspaper. So if anyone understands, Tyler, you're probably too young to understand what newspaper is, but, back in the old black and white newspapers, and bought the striping machine, started doing that in the summer. I was married with a kid, 15, 18 hours, credit hours at school, started striping and delivered pizzas, and then ended up getting my degree and said, I don't want to work for anyone. Kept going. We built the parking lot maintenance business for about 12 years. Then the sign shop came up for sale. It's this little 2-person, $160K in sales. And I went, wow, I can use now. This is 10 years after I got my degree. So I'm like, oh, cool. I can use my degree, which I forgot all about, didn't understand. I forgot everything that I learned. And then I could get paid in the fall, or I could get paid actually in the summer and enjoy air conditioning, paid in the wintertime when I'm usually sitting on my butt hibernating. And I was like 12 months a year pay inside using my degree. Oh, this is cool. So we bought it. Then I was smart enough to go have someone another partner talk me into starting a car lot. So I'm like, oh man, I'm 25. I'm Superman. I can do all this. Which meant I could do everything okay and nothing well. That's all that meant. So, yeah. And so we sold the parking lot maintenance business a couple years later. Then we kept the car lot for about 8 years. And boy, my wife let me know for 8 years that she reminded me every day, remember when I said, don't start the car lot? I'm like, yes, dear, I can't forget. And so the sign shop paid for the car lot for 8 years. Then we closed it and we started focusing on the sign shop, built it up into a 7-figure business and sold in 2021. And so now I've jumped into another partnership. Actually, I didn't even tell you about this. Jumped into another partnership. I'm a car guy. So I call up a past client of mine because I'm like, okay, I want to do some coaching. I want to help people. And, I've got enough information in my head that I need to be able to help people. So I'm thinking about coaching, call a past client. He's in the ag industry, ag consultant. And as I'm talking to him, I'm like, hey, what's your son up to? And he says, oh, he's buying a car business. I'm like, oh, okay. And my wife's, I've got on speaker so my wife can hear it. She's like, yes, call him next. And I'm like, okay. So I get on the phone with him and he's like, yeah, I've got an LOI sign. I'm closing in 4 weeks. I'm like, what is it? He's like, we're going to buy a kit car company that builds AC Cobras. And I'm like, oh, dude. And I'm like, okay, are you looking for investors? He's like, yeah, I'd be open to that. And I said, okay, do you want an investor that is silent or do you want an investor that's a working partner? And he's like, oh, working partner would be great. So, okay, cool. What are you looking for? And he says, I'd be marketing and sales. I'm like, okay, so I've got some cash earmarked from the sale. Like, okay, I need to be able to do something with this past investments in the like Edward Jones and whatnot. And so I'm like, okay, I've got the cash. I'm a car guy. And I can go sell cars to car guys at car shows. I'm like, this is a no-brainer. I look at my wife and she's like, I don't care, whatever you want to do. You've been waiting. You've been praying. I'm like, okay, cool. So I jump into that. Well, 8 months later, he signs my name on a document, sends it to the bank. So needless to say, that was over very quick. And now I'm back to like, okay, I guess I'll do business coaching, because I was kind of just kept running away from it for some reason. I don't know why. And so now I'm back to offering business coaching and actually just added brokering. So business brokering on the back end. So I help with growth, exit planning, and now brokering to be able to sell the business at the end.
Yeah. So how long did you own your sign shop for then?
22 years.
Okay. Yeah. What kind of signs were you guys doing?
We went from offering everything to really getting into specialized wall graphics. And when I say wall graphics, like think museum displays. And then we also did environments. So we were talking about Subaru. So like doing a 220-foot long hallway that we built a infographic for. So I sat with engineers and marketing people and then developed this whole infographic with touch points. But then we would also do a full environment following brand specs. So we would do, the monument sign coming in, wayfinding on site, go inside, wayfinding inside, interior signage, wall graphics, and so on. So kind of differentiate ourselves. Didn't really pay attention to the competition. People would ask me like, how's your competitors doing? And I'm like, I don't know. They can't do what I do. So I don't really care,
Yeah, no, that's true. And so you sold that business then? Sold that
in 21.
What was the reason for wanting to get out of that?
Actually, we didn't want out. We were both 49 and that was 20 was the year of COVID. So I'd had a past client that became a business broker, and softly from like January to May of 2020. So during that COVID period, the real heavy COVID period when everything is closing, he had softly touched like, hey, are you interested in something? Like, no, dude, we're only 49. This is our retirement, kind of same conversations you hear everywhere else. And he just kind of softly just asked a couple more times. I'm like, fine, whatever. What do you need? Give me an evaluation, whatever you need. So we gave him the reports. He gave us an evaluation. Well, during COVID, we had lost my assistant and our manager to daycare. So their daycares had closed and they both left. And their spouses were making more than what they were making. So it made sense. Well, so June comes along. So, we get this evaluation in about May. June comes along and boy, phones start ringing, emails start going, hey, we're ready to pull the trigger. So I go down to my wife and I'm like, hey, what do we want to do? Here's our situation. We have this financial situation. Here's the valuation. That's plan A. Or plan B is we need to hire a manager, another assistant for me, and another employee in production area and train all three. We're 49. We've got plenty of time. She's like, plan A is that real? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't sell businesses. I've just got to trust him. Now the financial situation, I know where we sit. And she's like, I like plan A. And so we put it blindly on the market. No one knew, who we were on the market. It was just Northwest Indiana sign company for sale. And within 90 days, we had an LOI signed. And 10 months later, we closed. And before that, I had been looking at business coaching, and I always thought we had talked about my idea on repping for companies like yours. And then I'd always thought business coaching was cool back before the craze of business coaching.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it'd be really cool. You help people out, you help them get to where they need to get quicker than I did. Cause I learned the long and hard way and expensive way. And I'm like, that would be so much fun during retirement. Well, so my plan was sell the business, get out, go do business coaching. Well, instead I got talked into staying. And then 15 months after we had talked into staying, we got let go. Same day, same table. I'm excited as heck. And my wife is like pissed off as heck. It was hilarious. And so I'm like, okay, now I can go do coaching. Well, then I got into the car thing. And so that took more time. And so now I'm just like, what do I do? After the car thing, I'm like, screw this. I'm taking some time off and relaxing, going hiking and figuring out life.
Yeah.
And so that took a while. I mean, to be honest, it took a while to get back to like, what are we doing? Yeah. And so now I'm excited again. I'm jazzed. I'm like, okay, I want to help people. I know I can help people to get to the next level, whatever whatever that is. And so, yeah, that's where we sit.
So when they approached you to sell, was there a lot of changes you had to make to kind of make it seem valuable, or had you already kind of done that work before?
I hadn't done that work. Since we weren't in a position that we were wanting to sell, I never really focused on what I actually teach. So it's kind of funny. What I teach is what I knew then, but I didn't implement it well.
Yeah.
And now I'm teaching people to do it. So it's kind of like do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
But it's more learn from what I didn't do. So we got lucky that the multiplier we got was only because we were the first acquisition of a roll-up. So basically they came in and they said, hey, we want to buy you. You're number one. Then we're going to go buy all these other companies and whoever and whatever comes across our plate. And we want to build to this level of income. So whatever was somewhere in the millions, like $8-9 million. And then we'll vertically grow that. And then once we hit our goal of vertical growth, we'll look at it and go, okay, do we want to hit up VCs or PEs and sell it? Or do we want to enjoy some profits for a few years? Or what do we want to do at that stage? And so I was supposed to be part of that ownership. And that's where it kind of fell apart. That ownership never happened. And so, yeah, we just started parting ways a little bit. So
makes sense.
Company's still going. We own the business. We own the building. So we collect a paycheck in a rent form now.
That's not too bad.
So, yeah.
And you got paid, I assume, on the sale. So that's not too bad.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't an earn out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I kind of read through some of the stuff you put out. You were on another podcast as well, so I kind of listened through that as well. Yeah. But one of the things, I pulled the quote, so I'll read it. But you said, it feels like the more I work, the more money I should make. But oftentimes that isn't happening. How often do you feel like that's true in the signage business? And what do you think like one of the main reasons for that is?
So I actually call that the 70-hour prison. So you're in the 70-hour prison, you work all these hours, your pay doesn't compensate for what it is. And I think a lot of it's processes, procedures, and it's also establishing who you are. So, like going in under the growth side, I look at things two different ways. Let's do a strengths and weaknesses, like the top part of the SWOT. And then, but that's for individuals and the business, and then do a likes and dislikes per person. So now we could take your strengths and your likes, put them together. And if you're doing that, you're going to enjoy things more. You're going to be quicker at them. You're going to be better at them. And then you start looking at what do I need to disperse from there? But a lot of owners just go, I don't want to teach someone, Tyler, man, you're a great guy. I'm glad you're on my team, but you're not picking this up. So I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll just do this and I'll just do this and I'll just do this. And now the owner is really doing it. And you're kind of like, oh, I kind of do stuff during the day and I kind of don't. Like, why am I here? And inevitably, sometimes you even lose people because they're like, I came for a purpose and I really have no purpose because I didn't get taught.
Yeah.
And so they just take too much on themselves.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, we look at it on our side too, in terms of like, I heard someone explain it one time as like a quadrant where if you put a bunch of grids on there and your top right corner is basically what you like to do and what you think is profitable. And then the bottom corner is what you don't like to do and what isn't profitable. And you'd be like, well, if it's anywhere in that range, right? Like, hey, maybe don't do it. I don't know. And it seems when you put it on the chart, right, and you look at it and everyone would think, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's not that intuitive. Like you kind of are like, well, yeah, but this thing down here in the corner still pays me. You'd be like, yeah, but you hate it and you don't actually make that much money doing it. So why don't you just try and get more of the business on this side? And from what it seems like on someone who's walked into a lot of sign shops, right, in terms of like, oh, we're busy, right? Like that's the running joke, not just in sign, that's just in America, I think, as a whole, right? Like, oh, we're busy. And be like, yeah, but are you busy with like good work that you want to do, or are you just busy to be busy? And that's what it feels like from our side, but I don't know what you're seeing on the business coaching side too.
Well, I heard it best, and I can't remember who said it. It was, what do you do with 1,000 minutes a day? And that really struck me. I heard this about 6 weeks ago. So now I'm working on that myself because I am that person. Like, okay, for me, it was, I used to go to work, and I wasn't a morning guy. So I'd roll in about 8:30, but I'm leaving about 6:30, 7:30. I'm going home. I'm having dinner. Hi, kids, blah, blah, blah. They go to bed. And now I've got my laptop on my lap. I've got the TV in the background, and I'm working until midnight, 1, 2 o'clock. That was my day. Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, we might go do a car show or something. And then we're back home and I got the laptop on my lap. I got the TV in the background. Kids are in the background and I'm doing work again. And so we all have this tendency, at least a lot of business owners and even a lot of employees on the other side, like on the employee side, that staying busy means you're doing good. And like you said, you can be busy and not making money. Because I find myself doing it now. I'm like, okay, I'm just surfing the internet. I might get on Facebook. Like, I wonder who I could find to talk to, and I might be thinking business coaching, but I'm like, it's not really an effective time use. I could be spending time with my wife, in the situation I'm in. I could be spending time with my wife. I could be, having something set that I could really be doing that would be effective. But instead I just find myself like, oh, since I got my laptop on my lap and I'm looking at emails or I'm looking at Facebook for a purpose in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm being effective, and it's not really effective. So how do you take those 1,000 minutes and break them down into intentional things?
Yeah.
And a lot of us might find we could do all that work in 4 hours and make more money, be more effective than the 10 hours or 12 hours that we put in a day. And it's very interesting.
Yeah. What do you think some of the mistakes that these people make that basically take them from, instead of maybe growing exponentially, just consistently being busy and feeling like I can't grow because I already have too much on my plate. There's no way I can do any more than this.
Personally, I think it's a lot of differentiation. So how much do you offer? Going back to strengths and weaknesses. What is your strengths and weaknesses that you can help differentiate your company from the competition? Okay, that's going to help you be able to grow because now you know who to market to. If you offer 75 different products, who's your avatar you're marketing to? Oh, well, anyone that owns a business. Okay, so you're telling me the startup that has no money is your target because you offer 75 products, of which one might be a $25 parking sign. Okay, are you going to make money at $25 parking signs all day long? Not unless you're Hall Signs or someone cranking out thousands, and that's a whole different model that most of us don't have. So how do you differentiate yourself where you have, like we talked about earlier before the podcast or before the interviews, where do you make your money? How do you differentiate it so you have a value, and that value adds a price tag, and that's where you make your profit. So I think that's a lot of it, is like figuring out how do you differentiate yourself, which we call MDP, market dominating position, or USP, unique selling proposition. Because once you get there, then you can start looking at, okay, well, then what is the value with that? For me, that's why I didn't pay attention to competitors. People were like, how do they treat you? I'm like, I don't know. Well, how's your pricing? I don't know. I have my pricing structure based on my costs and what value I produce for my client. And that's my cost. If you can't afford it, you don't want to spend it. Okay, I understand. I'll see you when you go to someone else. You don't get what you want. You come back to us. Yeah.
And it happened a lot.
It was like, okay, for wraps, because back then the wraps weren't as large of a industry thing, but we were, when we started getting competition, they started bringing the price down. Well, we didn't bring our price down. Our cost didn't come down just because competitors rolled into town. Yeah. And so we'd have a few clients that were like, oh man, you were $500 more. I'm like, okay, cool. And they're like, can you come down? I'm like, no, we've been working together for 5 years. If there's no value to what we've done for you so far, I understand it. I wish you well, have fun. And then the following year they'd be like, hey, we got a new truck. We need to wrap it. And I'm like, well, I thought you went with the other guys. And they're like, we did. Yep. We're back. We're sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. So the shops that I know of that know their cost, right? That's, I mean, that's a big one all on its own, right? But know their cost and know what they're going to sell their jobs for, just regardless of what's going on, what the market is, what the previous quote was on the job. Those are the ones that I feel like are growing faster than everyone else. And they can't explain that to somebody when someone's like, well, no, that customer came in and said it was $500 cheaper. And they're just like, yes. Yeah. Okay. Like, we have a lot of work here. We're busy, right? Like, if you want to jump in and get in line, I'm happy to add you into the queue. If you don't, like, he's here too, right? Like, there's enough, like the podcast we just did with Scott Decker a few weeks ago, he jokes about an old guy he knew that'd been in the business a long time. And he says, well, at least there's enough work for all of us. Right. And I think if you have that mentality compared to the mentality of like, oh, I need to get every job that comes in the door, it feels like those are the guys that are growing faster than everyone else because they're just, like we talked about, just staying busy versus staying profitable, if that makes sense. So,
oh yeah. And what we found out too is those price shoppers half the time were the biggest PIAs. So it's like, wait a minute, we're doing work for less money and you're being more particular than anyone else. And our standards were like, I set my standard for the team was if we meet expectations of a client, we did okay. If we beat their expectation, now we're doing our job. So if we were at that level and then we get these clients that are more of a PIA than the clients that have been with us forever and understand and are paying the regular price, it's like, we don't need that headache.
Yeah.
We're paying them to bring their headache on because we gave them a discount. Why?
Yeah.
And we just went, no. We'd even have people come in and I knew, most of the competitors in town and, you come in and we'd fill you out like, okay, hey man, I need this parking sign and I need this little, 18 by 24 sign on my door, our window graphics. And I'm like, okay, we fill you out like, are you Caterpillar or are you just Joe Schmo and that's all you're ever going to need? And if we found out that's all you're ever going to need, I'm like, cool. Okay, we're not the people for you, but Joe down the street is awesome. Go in there, tell them Shawn sent you, tell them, Creative Ink sent you, and go in there and they'll take care of you great. And we got a lot of thank yous for that.
Yeah.
Most people are scared. They're like, oh man, they're never going to use us. They're never going to refer us. Those people would refer us because I sent them to who would take care of them best.
Yeah.
Which is a huge, like, oh my gosh, this is not going to work in that manner. And it does.
Yeah.
So know where you're best at and then know where to send them. Don't just, I mean, if you come in and you ask for that and I just go, nah, man, sorry, we can't help you. See you later. Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're not going to get referred.
Yeah. That makes sense. This episode is brought to you by Arlon Graphics, trusted for innovative high-performance cast vinyls. Check out their newest product, DPF V9500, a non-PVC polyurethane wall film built to tackle ultra-textured surfaces like a pro. More exciting new products to come soon from Arlon. Check them all out at Wensco.com. Why do you think so many of the shops are scared to lose even one job? Is it? I always wonder if it comes down to, like we just talked about, is it cost, right? They don't know what their costs are, right? So they don't actually know what they need to make at the end of the month to be profitable, right? So they're just in their head. I think a lot of them are like, oh, I got to take every job because otherwise at the end of the month, I'm not going to be able to pay my people. Or do you think it's something else?
I think sometimes it's both. So I think the best way to get over that would be figure out what your personal, like let's say an owner of a small shop, $250,000, $500,000 in annual sales. Those guys, gals need to find out what is their personal expenses. So here is my break even at home. Okay. If I don't make this, then I'm not going to have a place to put my family. I'm not going to have food to put on the table. I'm not going to have a car to drive to work. I mean, so on and so forth. Okay. And maybe your spouse works, maybe they don't. That needs to go in that factor. Now you can take that and go, okay, now I have a personal goal of what the company needs to make. Now the company also needs to make enough money to reinvest. So we're going to need a new printer. We're going to need a new laminator at some point. We're going to need a new truck. We're going to need new this, that, the other. So now you have your goal of bottom line. How do you reverse that to go, okay, now if I'm making 20% of my money, then I need to make X at the top line to cover that. Okay, now is our minimum. Now, if we go to the MDP and we separate ourselves and we can control our costing, then we don't have to have every job. We know how many jobs we need to get. So if we know our average. Now, this does go back to what we talked about before this is people don't keep their numbers. At the end of the year is, hey, Mr. Accountant, here's my box of receipts. Okay, well then you're not going to be able to play in this scenario that we're talking about. Yeah. You're never going to be able to do that. But if you keep track of your numbers, so whether it's FreshBooks, whether it's QuickBooks, I've got a third-party installer. He did 80%, 90% of our installs. He would invoice us within 15 minutes after he was finished. He had FreshBooks. He had it on his phone. He had his iPad. He'd bring his laptop. And as soon as he was finished on a project, and he might do a 2-3 day project, and we were invoiced within 15 minutes to a half hour. He's driving down the road, and if he had a guy with him, he'd be like, you drive and I'll invoice, or he'd give the laptop over to you invoice and I'll drive, and we'd have an invoice. Okay. He knew his numbers. So now he can sit in that scenario and go, okay, this is what I need. This is where my expenses are. Oh crap, my materials went up 10%, 20%. How's that affect me in that scenario? Or my labor went up. I got to keep Jim on. Jim wants to quit. I got to raise him $2-3 an hour. How's that affect me on my bottom line? Not just like, oh yeah, I got to do it. And I don't understand how that affects me. I know now my numbers to be able to say, here's what I need to do, And so I think that's a lot of it is understanding the numbers.
I hadn't heard anyone explain the here's what I need to take home side of that thing. Like I usually hear people say like, okay, what's your overhead? Right. And most people don't even have that number, right? They don't know they don't even know what keeps the lights on a monthly basis, right? Like they don't have, here's what I pay my employees. Here's electrical. Here's, everything else that goes into that, right? They don't have those numbers. So then asking them like, okay, well, what do you need to make in a month? They don't have any idea. They're just like, well, I don't know. A lot. That's what I know. I need to make a lot of money. It's not working. I don't know. So it's interesting. I haven't heard the perspective of what do you need to make it home, right? Because that needs to go into that number is a really good point that I don't think I've heard other people bring up.
Well, and talking about the expenses. So this is how anal I got. And a lot of bigger companies will do this. As a smaller company, I was pretty anal. I took my floor print and I went, okay, I've got a design room. So I thought of it as I have my design agency. I usually had 2 designers on staff. Then I had my business accounting. So I had that office with their space and their equipment. And then I had production, installation, and we had some fabrication, and we had a fulfillment client. So we did about 1 million plus decals a year for one client. And so that had its area. So I broke those out down to the square footage. Well, I didn't do what we paid ourselves because we were buying the building. So what would rent be if we had to pay market price? And then I took the utilities divided by those percentages. And so I knew my design room with 2 people in it cost me X amount per square foot. So every month I knew what my cost was. So I could even go down to design cost me X, production cost me Y per hour. So I knew design might cost me $45 an hour as a company, as a whole. Production might cost me $40. Fulfillment might cost me $35. Installation might cost me $25 inside, minus the outside expenses. And so I broke it down to that level to be able to say, okay, now my departments cost me X, and I can even break those out. So design made this over the year. My cost is X. We made $100,000. My cost was $80,000. So I made 20% on that. So now you can break it down even that level. Now that gets way past just what do I need to live on? What do I need to make? Now we get into the real nitty gritty where we can really start generating the bottom line. And if you can bring the bottom line up, there's a cool thing. So if we cut costs, so here's a great example. My wife was in B&I. I was in B&I for, 10 years. My wife takes over, and the insurance guy keeps, just softly bugging her, hey, can we get together? Can we do a quote? And I'm like, no, I play basketball with George, and George is taking care of us forever, yada, yada, yada. About 3 years into it, I go, okay, fine. You're in B&I. Let's play the game. Get a quote for him. He comes back with more coverage and saved us $6,000 a year. Now, what do you think I'm doing? I'm going, crap, I could have saved $18,000 over the last 3 years. Yeah, I could have paid for this and that and this and that. And I'm like, how stupid was that? But it's just those simple things that we as owners, once we're in the weeds and we're going day to day, we're not thinking about, hey, how do we shave cost? Well, now those costs carry on. So, as a percentage, they carry on all the way through. That's just in our pocket every stinking day. Yeah. So if we can shave there, we can shave another area. Maybe it's, hey, guys, wear sweatshirts in the winter and we're going to keep the temperature down a couple degrees. Yeah. We're all working anyway, so what's it matter? But that might save you another $300-$400, especially now, $500-$600 a month.
Yeah, no kidding.
So same in the summertime. Wear shorts and a t-shirt if you're in production area, and we might keep it a degree or two warmer instead of cooler. We still want to be comfortable. We don't want to make it like coming into a furnace. But like what can you save in those realms? Can you get a gas card that you get 10% back a year, or you get a 20 cents off a gallon every time you fill up? All those things that we're just running, like we said before. Keep busy, and we don't think about those things. Yeah. And do you think getting the right people behind you is helpful for that too? Just in terms of, I think oftentimes the owners are so busy because they're kind of the one that historically has done everything, so they continue to do everything, that there's not even time to do that, right? If you're like, hey, you need to look at your costs. He's like, what do you mean I look at my costs? I got
17 jobs I need to squeegee back here tomorrow, right? Like, do you think that plays a factor in it? Or do you think it is literally just they don't know what they are, so they can't even find a way to look at them?
I think it's kind of both. I think when you don't have the time, it's going back to that. What do you do with your 1,000 hours intentionally?
Yep.
Can you take 15 minutes a day? Well, 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that's an hour and 15 minutes. Over a year, that's 60 hours. So you could just devote yourself by 15 minutes a day, just adjusting your schedule, however that is, 15 minutes a day, only focused on X. That's it. And 60 hours. In 60 hours, where could your company be in just 12 months versus I don't have the time, I don't have time, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Now, people are great, great help if you get the right people in the right place. I know I've heard nightmares since we sold our business. I mean, it was bad enough when we were in business. I've heard it's just almost gotten worse. So when I think about that, I almost go back to, we did third party a lot. So like our fulfillment, I'd say on 1 million decals, we did 25% in-house. So we found a great partner. We worked together for 12 years, I think, before we sold the business. They're still using them today, and they killed it. I mean, they did our third party. Now that was on smaller decals. And then I have my larger sources, and we did a lot of work inside. We were blessed with, we were small enough, but big enough that we had enough people to mostly do what we needed to. But if we got busy and we couldn't handle it, we had third party sources that we trusted and built relationships with to be able to say, okay, here's what we need. We know you're going to do the color correct. We know you're going to hit it. You're going to do a great product. We're not going to have a problem with it. If we do, we can call you. Boom, it's taken care of, So I think that's how you, in my head now, with especially the space we have and how hard it is to find people, building those relationships and building them strong.
Yeah.
And then, and I was thinking about this because I know we talked yesterday and you brought that up. If you have that source, and so we talked about, do you hire for skill or do you hire for culture?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hiring for culture is really what you should be doing. Hiring for culture means you got to train. Well, if you have those third-party sources, you can still keep your product and you're coming in and your job's being fulfilled while you're still training. So you could train them on the same project. If it comes out great, fine, you got redundancy, but you're not slowing down.
Yeah.
So you're still fulfilling work, making money, generating the income that you need without slowing down, but you could train someone. And I told you yesterday, like the best person I ever had was a print operator that had zero skill. So I think she was 21 and she came in, she had a little art background and trained her. She was the best print operator I ever had. And then being 21, she was like, year into it, hey, I'm going to go to Colorado and do some ski thing and do this and that with a buddy. And I'm like, oh no, I want to keep you.
Yeah.
You're the best print operator I've ever had. Like, this is awesome. No. And so it surprised me because my mindset was not that. My mindset was always, I got to find someone who's had experience and da-da-da-da. And then those people that I found, typically with experience, never fit our culture.
Yeah.
And I still hired them. So now I, the owner, did wrong hiring, bad hiring, and now I killed my culture, or at least put a dent in it that I'm trying to fight. Now, how do I keep this culture in my business? And I'm the one that put us there. Yeah. Because I didn't hire for culture, I hired for skill. So
we talked about this before where, we sometimes get people in for the rap classes that they've been doing this a long time, right? They've been rapping. They're like, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to do it better, faster, whatever. And so they'll come in, they'll do something real simple, right? They put it up and you'd be like, oh no, don't do it that way. Do it this way. It's going to be better. And they'd be like, oh no, I've been doing this for 10 years. Let me tell you, this works. Like, I promise you, like, just let me show you. And so the joke we always make is like, okay, do you have 10 years of good experience or do you have 10 years of all of these things we have to correct, right? Like if you're coming in with 10 years and you've been doing it wrong for 10 years, that person is impossible to train, right? They're like, no, this works. Like, I've been doing it. If they come in with no experience, right, you can just be like, hey, here's how you do it. And then they go and do it and they do it the way you told them. And you're like, yeah, it worked just like we wanted it to. But that's what I feel like a lot of times happens is you bring in somebody who's been doing it a long time. And maybe it did work with whatever printer they had, whatever workflow they had, but then they bring them into your system and you're like, no, that's not going to work. It doesn't work with the way we do it here. And even if it isn't an ego thing and they're willing to try and change, I think oftentimes you just revert back to, I mean, I've been doing this 10 years, right? Like I close my eyes and do it. Right.
Yep.
And that's what I think happens oftentimes. And that's why feels like they're frequently not a good fit. Is like, well, they worked in that system. They don't work in the new system. So
yeah, can't teach an old dog new tricks. They got that ingrained in their head.
Yeah.
And so that kills them more than, just being open.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
for sure.
I had that same kind of conversation with my daughter. She had some major brain surgery and her whole demeanor changed. And so my wife and I are talking like, how do we have this conversation with our daughter? She's 36, so she's a grown woman. And I was like, okay, you got to be open. One of my downfalls was I love to learn. So I had an HR consultant. So going along the same situation, I had an HR consultant and I would go, hey, Debbie, hey, I learned this week and this would be really cool to implement. One day she just goes, it's been like 18 months since I hired her. And she's like, Shawn, stop. Just stop. You can keep learning if you want, but stop bringing it to me. We're not implementing another change in our organization until we get this one implemented for 6 months. And I'm thinking, I'm doing this. This is cool. We're going to change and we're going to change for the better. And she's like, no, we haven't even given the other one time to implement. And so we've got two different extremes there, but if people will come open, do they want to grow? That's the kind of person you really want. Do they want to grow? And if they do, will they take constructive criticism and look at it as an opportunity, not a bad thing? For me, I go, you tell me, hey, you're sucking wind, you're doing this, that, and the other. I go, oh, okay, crap. I got to kick myself in the butt. I got to change that. Other people be like, oh, what a douche, man. What'd you freaking,
exactly.
Really? You're telling me I'm doing this wrong? It's like, it's all a mindset. So if you can get in that mindset of personal improvement, whether it applies to personal or business, or your job, whatever it is, just get that mindset. Okay, you're not beating me up. You're not coming at me. You're just trying to help me grow.
Yeah.
So
I think it literally, I always joke that if you can find someone that cares and is competitive, you're like 90% of the way there.
Yep.
Literally, if you can just get those two things, you have a way to push them because if they're naturally competitive, that's easy. And if they care, most of the time, you're not going to need to baby them the whole time because they will at least know enough to get it going and get it moving and at least try and do it the best way that they can. So, but that again, that's just culture. That isn't skill related. That's literally just skills that you naturally have for most people, or you can learn them for sure. But a lot of people, it's just the way they are as a person. So,
well, and even to the point, when we're talking to people that are five employees or 5-person team plus, we went to reading a book. So we did a Thursday lunch. We'd buy pizza, whatever, or we'd have a potluck one day and, we just changed that thing up. But we would do a book and a lot of them were Pat Lencioni. We did I think 3 of his books. He was just awesome from a personality standpoint. We did the Enneagram, we did DISC. Yeah. I think we even did a third one, whatever it was. I just understood Enneagram because I'm not that smart. So I'm like, okay, it stuck in my head more than DISC. And but we learned, okay, how do I talk to Tyler? How's Tyler talk to me? Yeah. Because when we did that Enneagram, we're like, holy crap. Okay, that's why Shawn acts like he does. He's 14 steps ahead. And I would always tell people dude, I'm 14 steps ahead. We're talking about this right now, this conversation. Yeah. I'm 14 steps ahead and I'm on 3 projects. I'm not even here. I'm just here for you. I'm not here because I've already thought through this and I'm done. I'm almost on the 4th one. Yeah. And so when we did that Enneagram, it was so cool because now it's like, oh, okay, well, you're an 8 and I'm a 2. So this is how 8s need to talk with 2s and how they need to understand the 2 thinks and the 2 needs to understand how the 8 thinks. And now your communication starts getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Yeah. And then one day we did this really cool exercise and people probably done this. It was a peanut butter and jelly exercise. And so have you ever heard of the peanut butter and jelly exercise? Yeah.
Is it the one where you explain it to them and they do it exactly the way that you explain it to them? Is this what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yep. And so my lead designer had been through the exercise. So him and I were the guys that did the, okay, you tell us what to do and we're doing it. So we broke up into teams of 2 because we were small. We were 10 people. And so 2 people would come in and we're like, okay, you tell us how to make peanut butter and jelly. And they're like, okay, well, open up the bread. We've got a package of bread, a couple loaves of bread. And so my lead designer takes it and just rips it open. Bread goes flying all over the place, and they're like, what are you doing? He says, you just told me to open the bread. So I opened the bread, and then they're like, okay. And I go, hold on, before we get to the next step, think about how the peanut butter and jelly is. Cause I don't want it all over the conference room.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was to that level. Like,
yeah.
Oh, we didn't think about undo the zip tie or whatever it is, open the bread, take a slice out. It was just open the bread, grab some bread, do this, do that. And now we start showing them, oh, okay. So as we're communicating to each other on whatever it is, especially projects, this is how deep and, specific we need to get so we're not missing things.
Yeah.
And once we did that exercise, I think we did it twice, and it was awesome. Like your conversations just changed. It was so cool. So
I always think about it from the perspective of if you ask someone to do something and they don't do it the way that you wanted them to, it's that's on the person that was giving instructions, not on the person that did the task, right? And and most people don't make that jump, right? They're just be like, oh, well, I told you to do it and you didn't do it. And you'd be like, well, yeah, you told me to do this and I did do it, right? Like from what you told me, what your word said, this is what I did. So,
oh, dude, as an 8. Oh yeah. I did that a lot. You didn't say that. Yes, I did. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
once again, I'm 14 steps over there. Yeah. So I already thought about it through my head, but I never said it verbally.
In 2026, G2G and Wensco will launch 2 new products into the market. The one is the United Stick, which is a high efficiency, affordable, and reliable product for your sign and lighting projects. The second is LumaLink, which has a power pin design that's made to be cut and done anywhere in the field or in your shop. This is for small channel letters or any large projects. Check them out at Wensco.com. This episode is brought to you by Arlon Graphics, trusted for innovative high-performance cast vinyls. Check out their newest product, DPF V9500, a non-PVC polyurethane wall film built to tackle ultra-textured surfaces like a pro. More exciting new products to come soon from Arlon. Check them all out at Wensco.com. There's a quote on the wall in our demo room that says, do it the way I thought you should do it, not the way I told you to do it. Is what it says on the wall. And I feel that all the time. Yeah.
Oh, so if I could have had that, that would have been great.
Yeah. It's so true. I was like, it's such a true statement where you're just like, well, okay, yeah, what I told you did do, but that's not what I meant by it. You know what I mean? So,
we had plenty of those. Boy, if I could have, and I learned that through it,
Yeah.
And even like, what's hilarious. So a lot of owners might relate to this. So we started where we were all on the first floor. Well, we had a second floor office area that we didn't need when we moved in. We grew large enough where I moved upstairs and gave everyone else the floor space on the first floor. Well, when I came down, my stairs would come down into the production area. And so my wife was in production and my print operator was in production at the time. And both of them would tense up like, oh, Shawn's coming down. What's he going to do? I got excited by change. So remember that as I'm talking. So I'm going down going like, okay, what's going on, guys? And they'd be like, oh man, we got a problem here. And I'm like, oh, cool. In my mind, I'm going, oh, cool. We got change. Yeah, we can fix that. We can make that better. In their mind, they're like, oh, Shawn's going to tell me something else to change again. Da, 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 da. So we had to go through, brought in my HR consultant, and they were like, from one side, she's like, okay, guys, when Shawn comes down, he's not coming down to beat on you. He's coming down because he's excited to make things better. You guys come down, think he's beating on you. And so, Shawn, you got to come down and have this tone. Because once again, I'm 14 steps ahead. So I'm not thinking like, hey man, how's it going? What's up? Yeah. Things going on. I'm like, boom, 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 straight to the point. Okay. And I don't mean it in any disrespect. I don't mean it in a bad manner. It's just, once again, I'm on different projects already, but I'm like, this is exciting. Okay, we can improve this process. We can do this. It's going to create more efficiency, which, in my mind, in the back of my mind, I'm going, that creates more profit on the back end, but that's not the whole goal. It's just like, okay, this is going to get better for our clients, so on and so forth. And that wasn't their outlook. Well, once we did the Enneagram and we figured out how do we communicate with each other, then she came in and went, hey, you guys don't need to get puckered up because Shawn's coming down the stairs. Shawn, just approach a little softer as you're coming down. Be intentional in the moment. Yeah. Don't be 14 steps ahead. Be intentional in the moment. It was great because now it's like, I come down like, hey guys, man, what's up? Like, okay, cool. And then they're like, hey, here's a problem. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's how we can fix it. And then they get excited about it. Yeah. And so it was really cool just seeing that change but I didn't know it. They didn't know why. I didn't know what I was doing. And so once we got that out and we talked about it and figured out how to fix it, okay, cool. Now it's like, so easy, but I think we miss that as owners a lot. It's like, okay, we're just running. So it might be like, boom, 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 Tyler, boom, 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 boom. And it's like, no, slow down for a second.
Yeah.
They're a person, treat them as a person, get out of the task mode.
Yeah.
And then that gets so much more than just task. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, even I could listen to that one. That's true too. So that's great. I only have one other question for this one, and then we'll wrap. We'll have a whole nother episode, it sounds like, to do, because I haven't made it to the second part of this, but that's fine. So the question I wanted to end with on just in terms of we're talking about growth. So for shop owners who are listening now, who feel like they're overworked, they're understaffed, they're not making enough money, they're always busy, what is kind of like the one thing you would leave them with to try and get unstuck from that?
Oh man, one thing. It's really, I don't know if there's really one thing. It's kind of like a whole thing, but it's understanding your finances from the beginning. So whether you do that in the evening, once again, being intentional with 1,000 minutes. I think that's the biggest one, because it's going to affect every other area. Can you say, like I said, 15 minutes? So 15 minutes, if you don't do your finances now until the end of the year, can 15 minutes a night, a day, whenever you can break away, just yourself, just this project or just this item, that 15 minutes, and devote to, okay, let's start at finances. Let's understand the finances. Let's then understand next week, how do we implement doing those finances, so on and so forth. But taking that 1,000 minutes and be diligent to what we do with that. And in that 1,000 minutes needs to include family, faith, not just business. So it's not 1,000 minutes of business, because if you think 1,000 minutes, that's time up to time to bed. It's not all business. And separating those and being intentional about separating those. I think that's the biggest key. So
I think it's good. Yeah. So, well, thanks for coming. Where can people find out about you? I mean, it sounds like you'll be on the next episode anyways too, but if you want to wrap up with, where can people find you? Where can people get a hold of you if they're interested in talking to you and talking further about how you can help them? I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. My website's YourBizCoach.biz. And my cell phone, if you want the cell phone, text me, 765-479-1415. I think it's the first person that gave their cell phone number on here. It's pretty good. Yeah, no, I like it. So yeah, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Thank you. Hopefully you guys found this as valuable as I did, just sitting here and listening. So I had a great time, and yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. So goodbye guys.